Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to disaster recovery and business continuity, emergency management, COVID, resilience, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there, so I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything. And if you're not on LinkedIn, you can just go to alexfullick.com and you can find me that way as well. It's that time again. This week in business continuity with James Green. James, welcome back.
Thank you, Alex. I just noticed that we are both wearing sports-related clothing. Let everyone know out there, we did not coordinate that. I know we get accused of always thinking the same things. Now we're dressing in similar manners. We may have to explore that in another episode.
I was going to ask you about that. It's like we're both dressed differently this time. And I'm wearing my Canada hockey jersey. So
I got Tampa Bay Lightning, so I guess it's all hockey themed.
Hockey, yeah.
This weekend, I love it.
Yeah, I thought I'd wear it in honor of the Olympics since that's going on this week. So and next
Absolutely.
week, we support our athletes. I actually used to know someone who went to the Calgary Olympics. In ski jumping.
Oh, nice.
So I understand the sacrifices and all the things that they go through. So, but it's good to see you again. And I know we've got our agenda and a few things to chat on today. There's something interesting. I thought when I read this, I kind of went, oh, that's different. Why don't you tell us about it and give a quick little shout out here?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go out of order here, turn our world upside down. So there's a journalist who I really just enjoy her work and support. Her name is Colleen Haggerty, and she writes a newsletter, great disaster-related newsletter called My World's on Fire. And everybody out there, I recommend you read her newsletter. It's fantastic. I hope you like it. I'm not affiliated at all. I'm just a fanboy here. But Colleen is launching, and I think this is the first ever, disaster fiction book club. And so the book is, let's see if I can do this here. It's called Olga Dies Dreaming, and we're going to be discussing it February 24th. So if you are in the disaster emergency management field, which you probably are if you're watching this podcast, I encourage you to check out the book club and check out Colleen's newsletter. I find a lot of value out of it, and there's a lot of good humor in there as well.
I'm definitely going to check out the My World on Fire.
Yes, My World's on Fire.
My World's on Fire.
Yes,
okay. I'm going to check that out.
Excellent.
I'm not sure I can read all the books that you guys do because I still have a stack of about 20 books that I've yet to read, and it grows all the time.
This book jumped the queue for me, certainly. Yeah. So yeah,
it's interesting. So check that out. Colleen Haggerty, My World's on Fire. I'll definitely be checking that one. Now, to update something you've been busy with this week, you attended a conference in person. Why don't you tell us about that?
That is correct. I just got back from Miami Beach, Florida, the Natural Disasters Expo at the Miami Beach Convention Center, right in South Beach, beautiful South Beach, Miami, expensive South Beach, Miami. My first in-person conference since September of 2019. So many moons ago, I was around people, and it was a very interesting situation. First of all, I don't think people know yet where their comfort levels are and how to handle common protocols. So some people were masked, some people were not masked. Do you shake hands? Do you fist bump? Do you have business cards? I didn't bring business cards. Do you ask for business cards? Copious amounts of hand sanitizer. It was interesting to watch how people interacted, socially, and what their comfort levels were with proximity, which will be another, interesting thing to see as we go on. But one thing that was weird to me, we've all been virtual and on Zoom, and I know I made fun of Zoom last week, so my apologies to my buddy Shane who works at Zoom, but we've all been on camera for years now. And, I don't know, Alex, like the first time you ever put on virtual reality goggles, it seemed real, but kind of not real.
Yeah.
So being back in person with 3D people felt kind of fake, not real. I didn't know if I was plugged into the Matrix or not. And it wasn't stressful. I'm not saying I was stressed out or panicked, but it just felt weird. It was weird to be around people. It was strange to be around so many people. And I actually found it a little tiring. Every day I was exhausted at a level that I shouldn't have been. So it was an interesting experience.
Were there times where you felt uncomfortable, considering social distancing, and people not wearing masks, and these days anybody who sneezes, it could be from perfume,
Yeah.
or cleaner.
Certainly, being based in Florida and being at a conference in Florida, if you follow Florida politically, we are a unique bird. So there's certain people who feel certain ways. There was a few moments of being uncomfortable, but overall it just felt, like I said, kind of off. And it was, I think as in 2020, we all learned how to talk over the camera and interact digitally. I feel like now we have to relearn how to interact in person.
Were the what do you call it? The exhibit halls and the speaker rooms, were they set up differently? Were chairs marked off or spaced out, or exhibitors weren't side by side anymore?
No, they were set up. The conference rooms were set up exactly the same. They were in the exhibit hall though, so it was like, I guess, not outdoor, but kind of open air. But I did watch just psychologically and socially. I was watching people were sitting apart from each other just by choice, which I thought was interesting.
Did that happen too? I'm assuming there were like lunches and those breakfasts as well. Was it the same thing kind of happening there too? People, lineups for buffets, but they're waiting for someone to get halfway down the table or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you could certainly tell how people have felt the last couple of years based on whether they congregated or didn't congregate, if they spaced from other people or didn't. It was really, you could just see immediately what everyone's thoughts were based on if it was back to business as usual for them or if they were a little more standoffish. So, fascinating psychological experiment, I think, happening. It was good. I don't think I've ever been so excited to go to a conference, honestly, and just look around and see people and stuff and wares. This was, Disaster Expo, so heavy focus on bringing stuff in after the fact, a lot of heavy equipment, all kinds of, I had no idea how many luxury portable bathrooms there are. I didn't know there's like VIP style portalets, which I'm totally obsessed with now because I had no idea that was a business vertical, but apparently there's a lot of those. Very interesting. And then very heavy, everyone's pushing drone is the new cloud, is the new buzzword. It seemed like there was all kinds of drone companies to save the day, save the planet, save your family. So interesting mix. I was excited just to walk around and see some people, meet some people, met the couple of founders, some nonprofits that I'm fans of. So it was I think 3-4 years ago, I would have said, wow, just another big exhibit hall with stuff that doesn't fully apply to me, but it felt like Christmas this week, just getting out.
Was it the same experience with vendors? Because vendors are, in those little, well, some of them anyway, small little areas. How was that interaction? Was it kind of just the same or same thing? People just kind of stood back and, spoke to somebody 10 feet away,
Again, it was a mix. Some vendors had masks on, some didn't. Some socially distanced, some didn't. Some had tchotchkes out for people to pick up and touch and handle, and some didn't. So it seemed like every booth was a different, it was almost like looking at all the different countries with how they manage COVID. Every booth was different in terms of what their risk tolerance is and what their philosophies were.
But all went well all went well overall.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, like I said, it's the bar has changed for me 3 or 4 years ago. This just would have been like, oh, another conference, but just doing something for the first time in years and meeting other people. I think that's one of the things I really miss, that exchange of ideas and, speaking to one of the keynote speakers who is a UX designer and focuses UX around, like what's the best way to design UX for a disaster, for use during a disaster, and spending time with her and she gave me a copy of her book, and just like these random people and exchange of ideas, I think we're all going to enjoy when we get back to in person. You don't have those conversations in the forum of a digital conference. I would never seek out, oh, I want to know more about user experience and user design of software during a disaster, or, tell me about your nonprofit that brings barbecue to areas after disasters. Those would probably not be things that I would seek out. But when you're at a conference, you bump into people, you see things, it gives you ideas and, spins your mind up into other areas. And I have missed that random interaction, that brainstorming that happens when you bump into people unexpectedly.
Yeah, that random passing in the hallway type thing. And then it's a spark of conversation. Just out of curiosity, from what you might know, were a lot of the attendees just local, or was there actually people flying in for this? Considering how travel and things, those industries are suffering right now.
Yeah, no, I would say predominantly Florida and then Southeast United States. If I had to swag 60 to 70% of the people. So I don't think I met anyone international who wasn't a vendor, exhibitor, or speaker, but I didn't meet every attendee. But looking at badges, it seemed, predominantly Florida was probably the biggest group, Southeast was the second biggest group, and then Northeast US was probably the third group. So.
And you have another conference this week too, believe it or not. From
yes.
nothing to everything.
Disaster Recovery International Conference, Las Vegas, Super Bowl weekend, should be mayhem. But looking forward again to, seeing people and seeing what's going on in our industry.
Yeah, I had Al Berman on, the president of DRI some time ago. Actually, a couple of times I've had him on.
Nice.
And, I was expressing my interest in going this year, but obviously with travel restrictions still in place, I can't go anywhere outside of Canada right now. So, maybe next year, but we'll see. So why don't we take a quick break, because we've got some juicy topics coming up. So we're talking This Week in Business Continuity with James Green. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This Week in Business Continuity with James Green. James, so let's jump into our agenda here. You sent an interesting article, I guess, that was posted on Continuity Central.
Yes.
About Gulf Airlines doing a live DR test.
Yeah, absolutely. This caught my attention that Gulf Air ran a live BC and DR test. There's a couple of things I wrote down, some notes here, caught my attention. First of all, they ran the test for 3 days, not a half hour, not 20 minutes. It's Saturday, it's 6 a.m. They ran it for 3 days, and all of their required operational activities were run remotely, including communication with live aircraft and global outstations. So this wasn't a case of, again, we asked the marketing department if they could access a SharePoint Saturday at 5 a.m. This was a full-scale test. And here's all the groups. I'm going to read all of these because it's crazy. Here's all the groups in the company that were involved in this test: integrated operations, aircraft maintenance control, aircraft technical planning, crew control, call center, flight dispatch, center reservations, airport support, finance, accounting, HR, IT, and corporate comms. That is a very robust test. And it got me thinking, how many companies do you think actually run live tests? I know companies that are regulated do, but I also know they try to do the bare minimum. Like, what is the minimum I can do to pass this regulatory audit? This seemed to me like a very full scale, we're actually doing BC and DR.
Well, a couple of things, because I wrote a bunch of points on this one too when I read it, because it wasn't a large article, it was small, but
yeah.
When I first read it, was this just a spur of the moment thing, or was there a lot of planning and effort up front for this? So they were actually planning the exercise rather than exercising the plan. Was that involved? Because for 3 days and have that many groups involved with apparently no disruptions, there's no way everything went, snap of a finger, tickety boo, bunnies and rainbows. No way. There's just no way. There had to have been some planning or something up front to get that all set up and everybody in the places where they needed to be. That was the first thing that jumped into my mind, because I've known back in 2000, I think 2005, 2004, somewhere around there, I was at a seminar and I got talking to a guy at a financial institution, and he was talking about what they were doing at his organization with testing and exercising. And he said, actually 2 months beforehand, they did an unannounced disaster declaration.
Wow.
To see what would happen. And it was chaos for the first 3 hours. He said, it was a few hours before things settled down because people weren't sure, is this a joke? What are they really testing? What am I supposed to do? Even people that apparently knew what to do turned around and were saying, what do I do? They weren't quite sure. Leadership, only a couple of leaders knew it was going to happen. But other leaders, they were looking at the president type role saying, what are we supposed to do? Is this real? What are we telling our clients, that we're testing or that we're in a disaster? So there was complete chaos, he said, for about 3 hours. So when I read the Gulf Air one, I'm going, well, wouldn't the same thing happen there? There's got to be some point. It can't be that smooth unless there was all that planning and all their systems and all their people are fully 100% mirrored, shall we say. Everything, so that you're just literally flipping over and everything just continues on. But we don't know that, from the article. But like I said, from my experience talking to people, there is impact and there's complete chaos to start with. So I don't think a lot of organizations are probably doing live tests. And if they are, they've got 2 systems running at the same time. Their main production site, they don't want to touch. So they copy it somewhere else and then try to do some testing and operational activities out of it, but flagging it as a live test because it is actual production data in there, which they'll scrub and delete because they've still got their real production site going, which won't impact clients, and customers. So.
Yeah, and that's the rub, right? We've all heard the joke, the first rule of disaster recovery testing is don't create a disaster. So you certainly want to not upend revenue or upset your customers, but then you worry about how accurate they are. So all of us, if we've been in life safety drills, a fire drill, shelter in place, tornado drill, evacuation drill, pick a drill. You don't tell people ahead of time by design so that you can see how people really act in real time. But we do a DR test and we plan it 6 months out and everything goes smooth. But again, if we knew, okay, we're in February, August 14th, there's going to be a fire in the first floor bathroom. By the time that came, we'd have that fire out in what, 5 seconds?
Yep.
But that's not how it works. And I understand not wanting to create another disaster, but I do worry some of these companies where the DR test is so overprescribed, so clinical, that of course there's no bump in the night because you know exactly what you're going to do. But then to your point, when there's an actual disaster, the first hour, 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours is total chaos. So I'm a huge fan of live failover testing, moving people, moving systems. But I want everyone to make sure that it's not so prescriptive and so by the book. Then to me, at that point, you're just wasting time and energy. You're not really determining how your organization operates under stress. And I don't want people to take the other end if they're a retailer. Well, let's throw the systems offline Black Friday. I'm not saying that either. But a lot of people, it's either here or here. I think we need to come a little bit closer to the middle. Also, if anyone is watching this who works at Gulf Air, write in. We want to know more about what you did.
Yeah, let us know, especially the leading up to it. It'd be really interesting. But also, even when they're doing that and they're running for 3 days, how did they go back?
Yes.
How's that managed?
Yeah, that's usually worse.
Yeah, exactly. Because now you've got, okay, well, we had data over here. Now we've got new data over here. Now what? How do we reconcile this? Your point about seeing how people really respond. This gentleman that I was talking to, he said that. He said, we really found out who the strong people were and where we had some deficiencies. And sometimes we had people by their hierarchical title were in the right position, but under that kind of a stressful situation, they weren't the right person to be in that role. So they were able to identify a lot of different gaps, especially with their teams and roles and responsibilities, and uncovered so many assumptions that nobody knew existed. No matter how many conversations you have, some things they're inherent. People just think this way and believe it's happening. And they uncovered a lot of that information. And they said it really made a big difference to do things. And then you mentioned the point of, August 14th, a fire in the washroom or something. All of that, if you're giving so many people that much runway to talk about that situation, then you're really controlling everything about it. Correct. And in a disaster, that's the point of a disaster. You don't have control right then and there. So it's you giving that much runway, you're contradicting what you're actually trying to accomplish. And it's I don't like giving that much lead time either in tests and exercises or whatever it is you're doing. Unfortunately, leadership sometimes doesn't see it that way, simply because, as you said, the impact on clients, the hit on revenue, potential branding, and with social media these days too, the wrong message could get out even when you're testing, and you're not having a real situation. Social media, it only takes seconds for the wrong message
out
to
there.
get out.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, it may take me 5 minutes to get out of a building, but it only takes 5 seconds for the wrong message to get out into the world.
Exactly.
So have you come across anybody that's done that? Any live testing?
Yeah, I was thinking about it before we recorded. Clients or companies that I've been involved with in my career that I consider legit live tests. I can only think of 2 where, to me, it tested not only the systems and the processes, but stress tested the people, because we make different decisions under duress. So in my career, I could think of two that I felt were actual full, this is as close to the real thing that you could get. So that's a low number. How about yourself?
Well, not except for the gentleman I spoke to. That's the only
Yep.
one I know of that did
Okay.
a real live incident. However, I did work for a company that did a lot of the, we still have our main production system running, but we'll copy everything and then run a live test that way, so that if anything failed or collapsed, they were still covered. So we did that, 4 or 5 years in a row. So, but those are the only ones
I wasn't including just data. Yeah, because but those same companies, I want to see them get hit by ransomware and see if they can pull data over. Moving data in a database is different than all of it, people, process, systems, and data.
Yeah, and the communications and
Yep.
who's doing what, when, and where, and are the people you expect available? Because that's another thing. Everyone does. And I was speaking with, I was doing an interview just yesterday with a lady in South Africa, Vanessa Thurwell, and we were talking about knowledge management. And she happened to bring up that sometimes you may have someone assigned for a position on a crisis management team who's a single mother, and let's say has 3 kids. Well, if the disaster happens at 8 p.m. at night, what are your chances of actually having that single mother come into the office or go to an alternate site? 0. There's no way a single mother or single father, for that matter, is going to leave their kids alone at home.
Exactly.
But when we're testing and we come up with our crisis management team members and roles and responsibilities, things like that don't come into our head. Janet is the lead of this group, or Bob is the lead of that group. But sometimes the circumstances in their lives doesn't allow them to actually do that. They could do it 9 to 5, but they can't do it any other time of the day.
That's actually, I'll share a story with you. The angriest a client has ever been at me. I did a tabletop exercise with this group, and there was one person who answered every question, knew everything, was the most experienced, but also kind of a bully. So when I was with that group 1 year later, same exact group, right at the start, I said, okay, Alex is on a plane to Australia. He's unavailable for the next 30 hours. Alex, you need to leave the room. And the Alex of the room was pissed. But then we got to see, okay, how does the rest of the group work without that Alex, without that single mother, without someone available? I mean, you've got to do that sometimes. Like you said, we're all available at 2:00 on a Tuesday with 1 month advance notice. But what about 3 a.m. on a Thursday when we get hit up by our mass notification tool right now? Not everyone's going to answer. Not everyone's going to be available.
And I'm actually one of those people who doesn't answer because I can, and not because, oh, my phone's ringing, I'm ignoring it. I can sleep through my phone. So you can try and reach me all you want. I can sleep through it. And I do. And it's, it's beside me. But when the phone rings, I sleep right through it. So now what?
So I guess for everyone out
there, I don't want to be a part of anything.
If Alex is your on-call guy, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm a sound sleeper. I can't help it. So, well, we got another interesting topic to touch on. So why don't we take a quick break so we can drink of water, and we'll be right back. We're talking with James Green this week in business continuity. Welcome back. It's This Week in Business Continuity with James Green. James, great talk as always. The last thing we wanted to touch on was a response you got to one of your Thursday, what do you call them? Thoughts of Thursday?
Thursday thoughts.
Thursday thoughts?
Yeah, so let's talk about one of our favorite subjects, you and me. So I do a weekly video series called Thursday Thoughts, where I look at risk, not from a risk management perspective, but from a personal perspective. And last week, I put forth the suggestion that you are always one of the what's that you're risking, you're always risking time. And you should look at, does that investment of time that you're risking line up with your values and line up who you're risking for and why you're taking risk? And you said something that I loved, so I have it written down here. So I'm going to read your words to you,
Okay.
and I would love for you to expand on them. And you wrote, the risk I take always align with my values. If the risk I'm considering taking aligns with my values, ethics, and morals, then the time attributed is not a concern. It's something that comes with accomplishing the risk outcome. If something is worth doing, then time won't become a hindrance, and I'll take as long as I need to take the risk and accomplish the goal. I love that, and I would love to have you maybe expand on that a little bit, or do you have an example where the time of the risk didn't matter to you?
Well, I guess I could use all kinds of examples. This YouTube channel is an example. I took the risk, one, because Voice America was filling up so fast.
Yep.
By the time March would roll around, all the shows for a year were booked, recorded and booked. And I thought, well, what am I going to do for the rest of the year? There's so many other fantastic minds out there and experiences for me to learn from. So I thought, well, why don't I take a risk and, start a channel and put things on there. And funny thing is, as soon as I started, a lot of people, the first thing out of their mouth, how many followers you got, how many subscribers you got, how much money are you making? And I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this for different reasons. I'm taking this risk because I want to share experiences. I want people to come forward and give examples and new experiences with disasters and how to do things and all this other stuff. And I thought, it doesn't matter, if it takes 1,000 subscribers before something happens. Well, fine. I don't care how long it takes. I'm enjoying it. If I'm enjoying it, then the risk I took back then was all worth it. Same thing with the Voice America channel radio show as well. Same thing. I'd never done anything like that before. I never even dreamed of doing anything like that before. But I'm enjoying it, so I don't care how long it takes, how long it hangs around for. I'm doing what is important to me, which is sharing the mission of business continuity and resilience and et cetera, because I don't want to see other people suffer when a crisis or disaster occurs, when there are methods and things out there to help people. I've made it no secret. I'm a practicing Buddhist, so I don't want to see suffering. Part of making me a better person is to help reduce that suffering. And I find by taking some of these risks, like the Voice America channel or the YouTube channel, is going to help me get that message out to other people. So for me, that all aligns with my values of helping others and not seeing people suffer. So if it takes a long time to get something really off the ground, and it did, it took quite a while for the Voice America show to really start going. It took a while for the YouTube channel to really start going. But that's fine because I'm learning, I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting the message out there. So rushing, and that's the intent behind it too, because sometimes the intent for people to take risk is, I just want money.
Yep.
But if that's your goal, then your intent and how you're going to accomplish that isn't going to work out the way you want it to, because your intent behind it is different. If my intent is, I want to help everybody and reduce suffering, is not, it's different, and it's, I want money, and this is how I'm going to do it, by pretending, I'm going to come off as, false. People are going to see right through that. And that's not me. So that's kind of where I was coming from with that response.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because your goal is compassion that's not quantifiable, that's qualifiable, that's subjective, would make more sense than why time, which is quantifiable, doesn't matter. we all have financial goals in our career and our businesses, then that's a quantifiable, that's a hard, the number is the number. It's easier to associate time to that. But I love, your compassion for the industry, your labor of love, certainly how we got involved with these YouTube videos. As people know, sometimes they're 20 minutes, sometimes they're an hour and a half. We speak about whatever we want to. There's no SponCon here ever. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it's a labor of love for both of us, to support your compassion for the industry.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And just to talk a little bit more about personal risks too, is that it's not just our industry, but it's any industry and any risk that people want to take. We hear sometimes of a new actor that comes on scene and we've never seen her before.
Yeah.
But she actually took that journey 20 years earlier to make that risk and suffered, I'm sure, a starving artist type thing, did terrible movies, probably some that she absolutely regrets ever doing. And then all of a sudden she's reached her goal and go, oh, you're an overnight success. No, she's been risking her
whole life,
life to reach these goals, but it's something she wanted. So the amount of time and commitment she kept because that's what she wanted. And same thing with musicians and, and many other people, in various industries.
Well, I think we all thank you for your compassion and your labor of love in the industry. It definitely makes, I think, all of us more, better professionals, and it makes for a better just profession in general.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a nice thing to say. My face is probably going to go as red as my shirt now. Do you have anything to add about personal risk? Because, it's your thought. Do you want to expand on what you were getting at?
Yeah, I just, kind of the theme of the Thursday Thoughts this year is, again, looking at risk from a personal perspective, not as risk management, and just encourage people to take risk. The Thursday Thoughts videos themselves are risk. Why is this guy who's, traditionally risk management talking about personal aspects of his life? Does that make sense? But people are responding to it. And to your point, that's the reward for me when people reach out to me privately and say, hey, thank you for sharing that. I'm doing this, that, or the other. That makes it all worthwhile for me running around with a camera recording bizarre stuff. So that's been,
let's clarify that, trying to run.
Yes. Yeah. Cheyenne, God bless you, running with a camera and looking perfect and sounding perfect. And as you guys saw last week, I had to stop. I couldn't do it, but I tried. I took a risk. So what? Didn't matter.
Yeah, I got a chuckle out of it. I have to say, I got a chuckle, and I did think of Cheyenne Marling right off the bat, and I'm going,
yeah,
oh, well, she's got that one nailed down. She knows how to do that.
Well, maybe someday I'm going to release all the videos that haven't seen the light of day. There's been some disasters, but it's fun. So
yeah, I've got the same thing. I have about 20 videos that I've done just myself with commentary on things that haven't seen the light of day, and I don't know if they ever will because I forget to release them, and the topic was valid 6 months earlier. So
exactly.
But one day maybe, just for fun, we'll release them. So we've come to the end of the show, James. I know today is your really only day off or day home before you start traveling again. So what kind of things are you reading or doing right now?
So I'm just about, I've got to start my book club book tonight. And I'm just finishing up a book on the rise and fall of General Electric, which has been very interesting, quick read, a lot of, just corporate arrogance. It's fascinating to me. How do you have a 125-year-old company, one of the biggest companies in the world, now not, and what goes into that? And then been watching some Olympics. So I'll ask you, men's and women's hockey gold medal, who do you have?
For both, I have Canada.
Okay.
Of course.
Very unbiased. Very
Yeah,
unbiased.
yeah, unbiased, of course. I would like, it's always fun to have us play either the Russians or the
Yes.
Americans. Though, everybody's got one rival, we kind of have two.
Yes,
And
you do.
it's always fun to play either one of you guys. So in the
Exactly.
gold medal game, I'm okay with Canada and either the US or Russia. We'll see, but I'm hoping we at least, no matter who we play against, we're in the finals.
I think that's a good assumption. I'm in the women, I'm going with the US, and the men, I'm going with Canada. So I'll split the difference with you. Sorry about the Russians. We're gonna lock you out this year. Maybe next time.
Well, we'll see. Hey, weird things happen, right? And you never
And
know.
what are you, to wrap us up, Alex? What are you reading?
What am I reading? Yeah.
What's your stack?
My book, actually, I just finished one the other day, a fantasy book. So now I only have one on the go. It's Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by Thich Nhat Hanh, who just recently, a couple of weeks ago, passed away. He was a very prominent Buddhist monk against the Vietnam War and brought mindfulness and other practices to the Western world. So he was quite an inspiration for me and definitely a big loss for the world. But that's the book I just started now, and I'm sure I'll be picking up another one of my stack of 20 books behind me, soon as well. But that's it. Thanks, James. Any final thoughts or any final comment?
No, I think that was our shortest episode ever. And if you're at DRI in Las Vegas, come find me.
Yeah, wear a mask. You'll be 6 feet away or something.
That's right.
Whatever.
I'll throw chips or cards at you or something.
Yeah.
So
actually, you can tell us about that one in next month's episode, just to compare how people, if there's a change in people's attitudes at conferences, if
absolutely,
if with some restrictions being lifted in some places, did that change how people viewed or attended a conference? That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, great. Thanks, James. Always good to talk to you. Enjoy your upcoming conference, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Alex.
And to everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.
If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave a message and let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about something related to business continuity, disaster management, COVID, personal well-being, anything that's relatable to those subjects, you can reach me through my LinkedIn profile, which is in the video description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.